Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Wednesday, October 24th, 2020 meeting of the East Long Meadow Conservation Commission. At this time, I need to ask if anyone in the audience is recording this meeting, and if so, please raise your hand and identify yourself. I'm assuming there's no one out there raising their hand?
Nope, you're all set.
Okay. All right, the first item on our agenda this evening is approval of the September 9th, 2020 meetings, minutes. I did not have any changes to those. Did anybody on the commission?
No.
I was absent, so.
Okay.
Sorry, Craig, you did roll call, right? I guess you noticed I'm here. I made it in.
Yeah.
Okay.
We see your face, Francis.
Thank you.
I assume that's Tony there, the telephone?
Yeah. I think
Okay,
so.
hearing no changes, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the September 9th, 2020 minutes.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, motion's made and seconded. Have the vote on that now. Jeff,
Yes.
Tom? Oh, were you at the meeting even?
Yeah, he was.
Yep, yeah.
Tom's on mute.
There you are, Tom.
Can't hear him.
Francis, are you a yes?
Yes,
Tony, are you there?
So I think who you're referring to as Tony is me, Carolyn Gurnick, the one in the public hearing case coming up.
Oops, I'm
Oh.
sorry. I sent in the wrong number. Sorry about that.
Tom, can you come off of mute?
Can't hear you. Are you there, Tony?
I'm there. I am hitting *6. Can you hear me?
Yes. We just started it. We just went live.
Okay.
We're approving the September 9th minutes. Are you a yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Tom,
Maybe thumbs up or thumbs down.
can you give a thumbs up or thumb down on approval of the September 9th minutes?
does not approve.
Down.
Oh, he wasn't there.
Yeah, he was there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So he's not approving.
Well, I'm voting to approve the September 9th minutes, so that would be 4-1. The motion passes to approve the September 9th minutes. The next item on the agenda was approval of the September 23rd minutes. Have people had a chance to review those yet?
Yes.
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 Also, I had no changes to those either.
I'm good with them.
Yeah, me too.
Hearing no changes or anything, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the September 23rd, 2020 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Aaron seconded.
Motion made by Tony, Aaron seconded the motion. Roll call vote. Jeffrey,
Aye.
Tom, I don't believe Tom was here for that meeting, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Francis,
Yes,
Aaron,
Yes.
and Tony,
Yes.
and I am a yes also. All right, moving to the public hearings. Number 1 on our agenda is a request for termination of applicability for 10 Bella Vista Drive. This has to do with removal of a tree out there. I was concerned about the an issue where I was asking if there was a certificate of compliance on this lot. And I hadn't heard back on that.
I researched the Camden County Record of Deeds, and there is none on file there, so I assume there's no certificate of compliance that's been filed yet.
Bethany, do you have anything to add on that?
No, I'm sorry. I haven't looked into that.
All right. Unfortunately, then I guess at this point, we can't hear this request for determination of applicability since we do not have a certificate of compliance. If the applicant is out in the audience, could you raise your hand and identify yourself so we could discuss this? Do we see the applicant there?
Yes, here she is.
Okay, there we go.
Carolyn's on mute. Carolyn's still on mute. Do we have a way to unmute her?
Here she is.
All right, did that work?
Yes,
There you go.
there we go.
Okay.
Hi, Carolyn. Do you know if it appears from the research of the commission that there was no certificate of compliance filed for or done by the commission on this? And based on that fact, we can't rule on a request for determination until the certificate of compliance has been completed.
I don't know why I'm, wait a minute, does that work better?
That's
Okay.
fine.
Yep.
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, I had dialed in as well, so I'm getting a feedback.
Oh, yeah.
Is that better?
That's fine, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. So the
Your
builder,
house
we
has a-
moved in on July 2nd. And the builder is in charge of doing that certificate of compliance. And as I understood it, he was going to do it at one of the meetings, the town meetings this month.
Is that Mr. Carnavale?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, he has to file that with the Conservation Commission, and so far he hasn't done it.
Okay.
That should be a fairly straightforward process. We have done site visits out to many of the units out there. So it would be a matter of Mr. Carnavale filling out the request for a certificate of compliance and sending that in. And then we could take care of the request for determination. So if you could reach out to Mr. Carnavale and ask him to do that, we should be able to take care of both items at our October 28th meeting.
Okay, great. I will. He originally had told me he was going to do it this month, so I don't know if he's in line to do it or not.
I haven't seen anything on it. Bethany, have you seen anything on that?
I did speak with him about it. I think he has the paperwork, but I haven't received the completed paperwork yet.
Okay.
All right,
thank
I
you.
will check with him tomorrow then.
Okay. Thank you very much, and we appreciate you doing things the right way and filing the request for determination.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So Craig, would this be a continuation of the public hearing to the 28th? So then she won't have to re-advertise?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I guess we should, I'll entertain a motion to continue the public hearing, but we didn't actually even open it. But anyway, I'll entertain a motion to continue the public hearing till the October 28th meeting.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Jeff and seconded by Tony. We'll take a vote on that. Jeffrey,
Aye.
Francis,
Yes.
Tom. I think he said yes.
I think he said aye.
Aaron,
Yes.
Tony.
Yes.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, project monitoring we're moving to is 53 Old Farm Road, where the letter went out to them a little while ago. Have we had a response to that, Bethany?
We have not yet.
We have not. Okay. I guess we should just give that a few more days and then resend the letter and maybe even send it certified. And I'm assuming this kind of pertains, I'm assuming everybody saw the email from the town attorney pertaining to the issue here with certificates of compliance being transferred, or orders of conditions and that sort of thing being transferred when a deed changes hands. So, okay, everybody saw that. That's good. So, yeah, if we could give them maybe till the end of the week, Bethany, you know, and then send that letter out again, certified mail, or put another note in it or something.
Sure.
Okay.
You guys hear me?
Yes, now.
Oh, all right. I had it.
Yep.
The thing was set on the wrong speaker. Sorry about that.
Hear you loud and clear now.
Yep. The next item on the agenda is 43 Avery Street, where they sent a letter in regarding trees that came down into the, I think it was Pacusic, correct, behind their house?
Yes, yes.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Also, if I may right now, if Mark Stinson is in the audience, we could definitely let him join the meeting to see if he has any comments. But essentially, from what I understand about this, you know, they definitely can be removed. However, you know, we just need to say that they can't be bringing in a bulldozer or a bobcat or something like that. I haven't been out and seen it. I don't know if anybody else on the commission drove by and took a look at that.
I didn't go by, but that was the house I went to, I don't know, back in the summer, that someone phoned in a complaint to the commission about a tree down into the Pacusic. And you know, this was the same address that I went to. And I knocked on the door, and the guy that came said he didn't know anything about it. And what was I doing there? I tried to explain it. He said, well, nobody called. So I'm going like, well, okay. But this, I brought this street view of this house up after we got this picture in this email. And it's the same house I went to. But since then, there's been a white vinyl fence added all the way around the yard. So I don't know how you would even get back there to take a look. I guess we'd have to contact the homeowner again.
Greg. So I went out there and I spoke to the woman, and the tree was down and across the brook and it was occluding it. So I told her she could go in there and remove what was necessary by hand to stop the blockage.
Okay. When did you go there?
Probably about a week ago.
Okay. Mark, we've had this come up a few times. Your comments about going in after a storm and removing trees and whatnot from blocking a river from flowing?
Yeah, it needs an emergency permit. You know, as much as Tom was trying to do a good deed, he also violated the Wetlands Protection Act by verbally approving work in a resource area, which I can't do it. The regulations don't allow it. If you want to let somebody do that, you need to issue an emergency permit. So just be aware. I mean, there are certain times where, you know, time is of the essence, but it doesn't sound like there was one. Don't forget, trees across streams provide huge habitat value. So unless it was blocking the stream so water couldn't go down, you know, or causing a flooding issue up gradient, I don't usually see emergencies in that case.
It was changing the flow of the stream.
Okay, then next time I would just issue an emergency permit, and that way you can be clear what you specify, what you want done, or how it's going to be done. Because always assume Murphy's Law, that somebody's going to take advantage or misinterpret what you say, and things will go badly wrong.
Okay.
So next time.
Yeah.
So
And,
after a storm, the state did not declare, you know, they haven't declared out here any kind of regional emergency where the emergency permit's not required. So next time, you know, be ready to issue an emergency permit if this comes up. I know Long Meadow, they had whole bunch of trees down, and Al over there, the chair, he spent a lot of time issuing emergency permits where it was necessary. So it involves more work, but that's the right way to do it.
Can any member of the commission sign off on an emergency permit, or?
Yes. So one person can sign off on it, and then it just needs to be ratified at the next regularly scheduled meeting. But we typically recommend that some public official, not a commissioner, declares the emergency, whether it's fire department, police department, DPW, board of selectmen, town manager, whatever. And that way the burden of declaring that it's an emergency is not on the commission. Somebody else needs to declare it. In fact, that's what the regulations state.
Thank you, Mark. If I could comment on a couple things, the applicant did put in there about how, or the person who sent in the letter did put in the email about how it was blocking the stream.
Okay.
My other one is I am not aware that East Long Meadow declared an emergency. But thank you for your input, Mark. I appreciate it. And
Well, let me clarify. Even if East Long Meadow itself declared an emergency, that's meaningless under the regulations because DEP would have to declare it. So it's an indication you won't need to go to a public official if East Long Meadow declares it, but you still have to issue the emergency permit. So if East Long Meadow declares as a townwide emergency, that's pretty much your ability to issue an emergency permit. Only if DEP declares the emergency is there no need for an actual emergency permit, but there is a requirement for the applicant to notify both the commission and DEP of whatever emergency actions taken.
So the emergency permit form is a DEP form?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
We've done a couple of them. Yep.
My question again is, it has to come through the commission at the next meeting, though.
Yeah, just because if one person, any one commissioner, but I always recommend that the commissioner talk to somebody else. Don't do it all alone. Have some other commissioner with you, or at least talk to either Bethany or Craig usually, and then issue it, set conditions, because it is a permit. You can still set conditions on it, and then just bring it to the next meeting, put it on the agenda, and discuss it there, and ratify it there.
Thank you, Mark.
All right. Thank you, Mark. Next item on the agenda was the policies and procedures for the Conservation Commission. I really didn't have anything on that. Did anybody have anything that they wanted to put in on it?
I just wanted to check and see how the new system of using the curbside pickup station worked for everybody.
Worked great.
Okay,
Yeah,
awesome. Then we
It
can
was
keep
okay. Yeah.
Thank you, Bethany.
You're welcome.
My only comment, I mean, it was close time-wise this week, but and I know you might be surprised with this, but if we could still get them emailed too.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, but other than that, it was okay. Jeffrey picked mine up. Okay. Next one would be, that's on our agenda, the carryover from last week is response to the letter from Mr. Joyce with the restoration plan for lots 19 and 20 at Hidden Ponds. And we were all supposed to take a look at that in our last couple weeks off here. Does anybody have any comments on that?
Through the chair.
Please.
The proposed restoration area is, it looks like it's just planting the trees in that space that was, I guess you would call the causeway or whatever, between, that walk through from one side of the quarries to the other. And the trees that were cut along the backs of both lots. And I would like to see the trees, the whole point is to plant where they were cut, not just plop them all in one area, because then you're not really replacing what would have been the canopy that was originally there. And there are saplings and stuff growing in those same spots now, and they were growing there before when they were cut, so.
I would tend to agree with that also. I know Mr. Joyce was presenting a case while we were there on the September 8th site visit that the trees wouldn't grow in those locations. But before this project started, in my opinion, those were wooded, forested areas. So if there were trees there before, I would say trees can go back there. And yes, I would like to see the canopy restored also to where the canopy was removed from. And if I may, we can let Mark Stinson in, and he can stay for the entire meeting if he wishes, and until he's up on the agenda. I always value Mark's input. Any comments from any other commissioners on this?
I'm just, Craig, to the chair. So I haven't seen this area. I think I know where we're talking about. He speaks about that they did not cut those trees.
Yeah.
In that area. So how do we know if the trees?
And I was going to say, as a part of our response, what we have to do is locate these photographs. I had them in an old phone that kind of died, and it's hard for me to get things out of there. But I'm 99% sure they exist in the file at the town hall. So we'll have to ask Bethany for some help with it. And I'll do the best I can to try and get these out of my old phone. But yes, these need to be included in our response where we're showing the stumps. And it's, you can and you can't see exactly where they are because of the pictures. None of these were large trees. I'm going to say they were in the 1 to 2.5 inch range, but they still would have been future canopy. They weren't just little invasive species or anything like that. So yes, in our response, we need to include those pictures with it, and you can get it on close approximation. And one of the other things out there that I wanted to bring this up that could help, as a part of the erosion control from when we were out there on our September 8th visit, there was a pretty fair amount of straw that was put down outside the limit of work line as an extra precaution to prevent the red clay from entering the quarry. So I think also we should, be saying that straw can come up now. because when we were also there on September 8th, lot 20 was, the grass was germinating quite well. I haven't looked at lot 19 recently, but the grass was starting to come in there. And I think we'll all agree that we saw that on the September 8th site visit.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
Plus the erosion controls are still in place. The
Yeah.
silt fence and the wattles, so that'll should help with the grass growing, should be a good deterrent for erosion.
Okay,
If I may, Craig?
please.
So the erosion control line, unless otherwise stated in the order, is supposed to be the limit of work. So if someone needs to put additional erosion controls down, it doesn't go on the wetland side of the work limit line. It comes on the inside of the work limit line. So it's my understanding that they work beyond the approved work limit line?
That is correct.
Okay. So there's your major violation right there. They went farther than they were supposed to. So, you know, this is all a learning lesson for everybody, is you always verify that the erosion control / work limit line is properly constructed and it's in the right place before any work starts. Now, you know, you have issues with these red soils. So a lot of times these fines, or hay bales, silt fence, straw bales, whatever, will not stop the fines from going through it. They'll go right through it as if it doesn't even exist. So that's why it's important to know your soil type before you approve the work if you think you're going to have an issue. So what you do instead, or in addition to one or multiple rows of erosion controls or sediment controls, is you do erosion control. So erosion control is not the same as lumps it together. Erosion sedimentation control. Erosion control is preventing runoff or rain from impacting bare soils in the first place, which reduces the sediment that will go off-site or leave the area. So erosion is typically by rain hitting bare soils and all that sediment flows off. So you have to control both erosion using blankets or not exposing a lot of bare soils. So you have to do that in addition to sediment controls, which is preventing the sediment that does run off, the erosion that does run off, from getting past the hay bales. So it's two things that have to be done in erosion sedimentation control. First, prevent the erosion, and second, for any erosion that's going to happen, you know, have controls. So there's materials like the clay, the red soil, anything like that, the really fine material, it'll slip right through hay bales. So you have to prevent it from having a problem in the first place. So next time.
Yep, and that's exactly what happened here. There was two spots in these areas where the red clay went through the erosion controls and went into the pond. And so that's why, and this was one notice of intent for lots 19 and 20. And so that's why we issued the enforcement order for that. And then also in that order, we had included the cutting down of the trees. One of the other methods that they used out there to prevent some of this runoff was they actually dug a trench 2 feet away in front of the silt fence and the wattles to contain the water there. And for the most part, after the improvements were made, I personally haven't seen it. We don't get out there every time it rains, but right now it seems to be working.
Okay, so when you have these fine materials in the water column, it may take a day or two for it to settle out to the bottom. So no matter how big you make something like what they did, it's still going to be a very time-consuming process for that material to settle out. So I don't know if you guys saw the email I sent about flocculants and NTUs and stuff like that, turbidity units.
Yeah.
So it's a huge process to really get erosion and sedimentation controls correctly done.
We had,
On the wait a second, on the existing conditions plan, Bethany, did it show the tree line there? You know, existing tree line. Usually consultants, when they have trees like this site, they'll show what the tree line is. So if they show a tree line, you know, past that limit of work, then you know you had trees there, period.
the entire area was forested prior to
Okay.
the development happening.
So, you know, there should not have been any clearing, any work after the limit of work line.
Yep.
So,
And after the enforcement order, we did see your emails that you sent out. The applicant did actually, in fact, consult with an environmental engineer and came up with this other method, but we did suggest to them the use of the flocculants there after receiving your email.
good, I'm glad.
Yep.
Craig, I just want to let you know that Al's in the audience and he has his hand raised.
Sure. I'm sure we can have Al comment.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, good afternoon. I guess there's just two comments I wanted to make. When I was out there, I think with Jeffrey and Tony, we looked at the area where there were some stumps. And that was an area I tried to explain to them that was an area where the previous owner, Keith Lindner, who was in the tree business, would clear the causeway on a regular basis. He went around with a tractor, and he on a full-time, he had all kinds of tree cutting equipment. He would clear on a regular basis. And the area where these stumps were is right at the edge of the causeway that goes between the two ponds. He kept that purposely cleared so he could drive across. The area where these stumps are, we would have no reason to clear any trees there. It wouldn't have served us any purpose. So that was regarding, there were stumps. I don't know that you need to get pictures. You can still see where the stumps were. I'm not disputing that. But if I do have to plant trees, the trees that I was shown where there are stumps was on lot 19. None of that was, at least where I was shown. I was shown briefly when Craig was out there. That was on they were all on lot 19. And the reason I would prefer not to replant right in that exact location is because that's ledge there. It's just solid rock. I mean, there are trees that if there's seeds in there, they'll probably germinate. I've seen trees growing in strange places, but I don't know how we can dig down in just rock to plant there. And there's none of the trees there that have any kind of a canopy. Most of those trees have no branches. They're white pines, and they just have a little bit of green at the top. They didn't have any canopy. Where I'm proposing to plant, they'll get some sunlight, and they will grow to be vigorous pine trees that will be over 100 feet tall that will give good canopy. And as far as putting the straw where we put it, when we did hire GZA, they said that was the place to put it and that it was okay with all the regulations. So I don't know if was given that advice on that. But we didn't put it there on our own. We were told by GZA that was the best place. And since putting the straw there, it did stop all the erosion. And that's it.
Okay. Was that both of your comments or just one?
Yes, no, that was both. That was all. That's everything I got on that.
Okay, thank you. Comments from the commissioners?
Craig, Chair.
Mhm.
You guys have been out there, whoever's been out there, and I'm curious because I agree if we're going to plant some certain trees that we want them to be healthy and grow as tall as possible in a soil that's, you know, going to be supportive of that. So what did you guys experience? That was ledge, or that was, I mean, if they were, it seems wasteful to plant something in an area where they'll only grow thin and scraggly.
If I may, frankly, I'm not completely sold on it as ledge there.
Okay.
Because where we're talking about planting these trees, half of these ones that were down are 20 feet away, 20 to 25 feet away from where the proposed plantings are. And I don't know that how we're stating that there's no ledge here, but 20 feet away there is.
Okay.
The farthest away from where we're actually in lot 20, and that 20 feet away would be in lot 19. And so I mean, we're 50 feet away to 60 feet away in lot 20.
Mhm.
This entire area was a quarry, and this entire area was forested prior to this project starting. There was full-size trees there where those houses are, where the backyards are, where the limited work line is. There are plenty of them.
I have a question and comment. So
Please.
Since I've been going out there, which at the time I was a new commissioner and I really didn't know a whole lot. I still don't know a whole lot, but anyway, I'm learning. And it seems to me our real issue here is the limit of work line correctly indicated? That from the beginning has been a puzzle to me. I know that there are trees so close to they're very close to the limit of work line that have been taken down, even recently. But there's an issue of how you measure, et cetera, and that needs to be resolved. I know that's on our agenda. But
yeah.
There are trees that were not pine trees, that were hardwood trees that we just have to see, were they on the limit of work line or outside of the limit of work line, but they're gone. And the first time I went there, my first comment was, it seemed like a disaster zone. Everything had been taken down other than, you know, within 25 feet of the quarry, but still it seemed very, very close.
Yeah. And
you could just see there was going to be enormous erosion and sedimentation problems.
Yeah.
Because all that area, if you had seen it before and now, anyway. Okay.
Anybody else?
I guess my question is just, I just want to get some kind of clarity for myself. Whereas I know that we've walked that causeway, and was that causeway in existence prior to the construction of the neighborhood?
Yes. And
Yes.
there
Oh, it was?
Yes,
and there
Okay.
yes.
That I'm just trying to get some clarity on.
if that little turnaround where you come in and there's those two lots right there at the small turnaround, not all the way in the back.
Okay.
Those are the
Right.
two lots we're talking about.
Right,
And
and where you cut through to get
yeah,
to
they're
the
to
other.
the right of that.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That was there because the old house was near there, right? There was a house there.
It's still standing.
Yeah, that
yeah,
piece of
yeah.
property. Okay.
Mhm.
And that's in between both the ponds that we're seeing here on this.
Yes.
This is what I'm talking about, right? Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
okay. And he's proposing here
Mhm.
Yep.
And the stumps are within the causeway or along this, the edges?
No, if you look at the limit of work line where your pen is right now
Yep.
and go, well,
It's
can't
hard.
put my finger in the
being on
direction,
Zoom.
but if you bring your hand down a bit, and you go over where your pen is now,
Yes.
along the back of 20, this was
Yep.
prior to any houses being constructed.
Okay.
When this was in the rough stages, there was the limit of work line and so forth there. And this is where the outflow from the water that goes from that little cul-de-sac area flows out.
Over here. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And Craig had taken pictures and we had been out there on a site visit. And there were clearly small sapling trees. I would say probably the biggest one was maybe 3 inches in diameter, but most were probably 1.5 to 2 inches that were cut beyond the limit of work line, all quite a ways along the line.
Here, like here, Jeff?
Yeah, well, it's hard for me
I'm
to
sorry.
see.
I
You
know,
know
it's
what?
hard to,
That looks like the one on the right side of our screen, that's 20. Correct?
okay,
And
yeah,
the one on the
correct.
left's 19?
This is 20 here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Right, Craig, I
no.
think you're pointing to here
Yeah,
also.
yeah.
That's
right
19
along,
right there.
yeah, right along in there.
Yeah, that's 19 and then 20 goes the other way.
So
Lot-
this is, right, okay.
That's
This
lot
says
20.
19,
Yeah.
where the
20
little
is to the
kind of
right. Lot
over
20
here.
is to the right. That's not 20. That's
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
20 to the
Okay.
right.
Okay,
The
Okay.
outflow, you guys are wrong. The outflow is right in between 20 and 19.
over here.
Right, right.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
And the trees were cut on if you're facing lot 20, they were cut along the right side of that outflow along the limit of work line. On the
Okay,
opposite, on the quarry side of the limit of work line.
okay.
And then
I
it
see
went
what you're-
down past that and more were cut on the opposite side of the outflow on lot 19.
I can see the outflow now. Okay. And I think I'm starting to recall the
Yeah.
stumps.
Yeah.
So, okay.
But
Thank
I remember there were distinct pictures of that
Yeah.
Craig had taken, and they should be in the file in the office.
Yeah.
I actually might have copies of those too. Okay.
And the other thing, and in my opinion, I think the way some of these trees came down, because yes, we're not talking about ones that are taken down where Mr. Joyce is showing them planted. If we go way back into the beginning of this project, and I think there was several of us out there, at the area where that outflow flows, goes straight towards the body of water, towards the quarry. We went out there initially, and the silt fence, if people recall, was 12 to 13 feet away from the water there.
Mhm.
At that time, we did not issue an enforcement order, and we just had Mr. Joyce move it back. And I would say that could be part of the time that these came down.
Mhm.
But, you know, so based on that, I would like, you know, we need to provide the photos for this, but I recommend that we respond to this letter and say the trees need to be planted in approximate locations as shown. And also if we remove the straw that's there, because that's what I was looking for at the September 8th visit, but there was enough straw there where you couldn't see these stumps anymore. I think if that's removed, we will be able to see them. So it would be my recommendation that we have the trees planted where they were removed from, not clustered in one area, as that is shown in Mr. Joyce's response. So I will
Just
enter.
for point of information, Craig, you know, things can still be planted, but we're getting close to a first hard frost, and we've got to make sure all the erosion and sedimentation controls are going to be stable through the winter until next spring, summer.
Mhm.
Thank you. And, you know, and as we have with, when we do plantings, and feel free to comment on this, Mark, too, we usually ask for, you know, the plantings to take root and be there for 2 growing seasons before we're lifting emergency or an enforcement order.
That's usual, par for the course, 2 years, make sure it grows. Yep.
Thank you. So I guess I'll entertain a motion that we will draft a letter, response letter to Mr. Joyce stating that we want the plantings to be done as close as possible to where they were removed from, and we will include the photographs to that. And I will work with Bethany on crafting the letter.
You gonna specify the diameter, the height, or the species? Okay.
You gonna take a vote on that?
Well, if you haven't already approved it under the original enforcement order, if this is a modification, then you probably want to vote on it.
It's in there saying that it had to be replanted, you know, but essentially this is just a response to
Oh, okay.
proposed letter for the restoration.
Okay. It's the commission discretion how you want to do it.
Sometimes I default to writing a letter, even though we might, or taking a vote, and we might not necessarily need to.
Is it specified in the order of conditions already?
Well, this is a violation. Nothing should have taken place there, so it wouldn't have been specified in the order, right?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
But it was specified in the enforcement orders that the trees had to be replanted.
Okay. I just wanted to be sure. Okay.
All right. So we haven't made a motion yet. I guess if we don't necessarily need to vote, are you folks okay with myself working with Bethany to draft this letter, the response letter?
Yeah.
Yes.
I am. I'd love to see the pictures too, Craig.
Yes. I mean, that's definitely high on my priority list because we need to get some other pictures out of the file there.
Okay.
I'm gonna work with Bethany and ask her to make a PowerPoint of virtually every picture that we have, and you know, we've turned in well in excess of 100 photos on this project.
Okay.
Okay. If we're on the hidden ponds, I would like to go into another one. I received a call from Anna Butter yesterday regarding the water that was discharging from the retention basin. And I was there, I'm gonna say from 6 to 6:15-ish, and I was trying to snap pictures as quick as I could while it was getting dark. I believe everybody on the commission saw them. And I'm concerned, and as I have been in the past, regarding the proper functioning of this basin. Because after I looked it up online yesterday, and we had 1.43 inches of rain that started at 2 a.m. pretty much, and it was pretty much over at about 4, and then it was just kind of drizzling from 4 to 6 when I was there. And in the pictures that we had, you know, the outflow of that basin had a pretty substantial amount of water coming out of it. It was probably 1.5 to 2 inches deep, and it was flowing pretty good. I guess I can try and share that picture right now, and this is the one that I will show. Host disabled participant share screening.
1 second, sorry.
So, Mark, could you give us some insight? This road hasn't been accepted by the town yet. This is all on private property and within the limit of work. All right, the basin is working correctly, and there was no water that spilled into the wetland. Correct, Craig? You can see that it clearly didn't even get within 3 or 4 feet of the spillway. So
is this the one that's called the infiltration basin, Or is this the bioretention basin? Which kind, what's the description of this stormwater BMP? The legal name for it. So he was proposing both infiltration basin with a sediment forebay and a bioretention area.
There is a forebay.
I believe it says bioretention basin.
I'm looking at the drawing from Rob Levesque. It says infiltration basin.
Okay, because in the southwest corner, I don't know what lot it is. I'm looking at his stormwater report. That's the one in the southwest corner. Again, I don't know the lot number. It shows a forebay and a basin.
Correct.
So if that's an infiltration basin, remember, we're still in the construction phase of the notice of intent. So what the handbook calls for actually is a separate, during construction, you create typically a sediment trap or a sediment basin, which is sized for the watershed area of that watershed, where infiltration basin is post-construction, and that's sized for the new degraded area. So there's a difference in function for construction period versus post-construction. So they're actually supposed to have a separate sediment basin from the final post-construction infiltration basin and sediment forebay. So pre-construction, you're supposed to treat water differently than post-construction. So what happens a lot of times when you use a post-construction sediment basin or post-construction infiltration basin is also your sediment basin, as the bottom gets filled up. It gets plugged up by all those fines and it can't infiltrate. The other thing about infiltration basins, you have to make sure when it's originally put in that it has the correct depth to seasonal high groundwater. You don't want to intercept groundwater at the bottom of the basin. I don't remember enough about the stormwater report to know whether or not all these things were looked at, but it's pretty common. Infiltration basins, detention basins, you know, if they're used during construction phase, they're all plugged up and they're not working right. They're not acting to hold all the water or infiltrate all the water they're supposed to. So I'm not surprised that you're having additional water there. I mean, you know, it happens a lot.
If I may,
berm inside the basin?
No, you'd actually have to stop the water from getting in there in the first place and make a sediment trap correctly sized to control all that sediment so the sediment can settle out before it becomes an issue.
Right,
So you're actually supposed to have construction period basin and a post-construction basin, but a lot of times they don't do that because they're short on space.
So basin.
So they try to combine the two.
Basin within a basin?
No, not a basin within a basin, an additional basin. Again, so the infiltration basin is sized for this post-construction stormwater feature is post-construction. It's sized for the new impervious area of the houses, the driveways, the roadway, whatever feeds that basin. A sediment basin or a sediment trap is sized for the entire watershed, not for the impervious area. So it's designed to handle more water. It's bigger. So this clearly is not big enough to handle the watershed, the runoff coming from the watershed. And it's also being plugged up. Yeah, Craig.
I was going to say, if I may, Mark, we've pretty much had issues with this basin from the beginning because we've been questioning the fact that if you look on the infiltration basin notes on the drawing, there's a number of things that were not complied with. And we were working to try and get some of these things stopped, you know, and if you can see This picture,
Oh, I saw that, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, Bethany sent me some shots.
that was fairly common and that has been going on since.
Well, is the roadway have the top dressing yet, or is still just the base coat?
Base coat.
Okay, so until the top coat goes on, the water's not going to enter the catch basins the way it's supposed to. It's not going to, because it doesn't have that top coat on. So we're still in the construction phase. So that actually does not have to act as an infiltration basin at this time because they're not ready for certificate of compliance. So that can actually be expanded to grab the additional water from the watershed until, you know, you get more of the area. I mean, part of the problem here is I'm looking at the aerial photo and they opened up a huge area and you've got all this exposed soil sending all the runoff somewhere. So in final conditions, it won't be like that. But in the meantime, you have a lot of bare soil, I presume, still. So the way to do it is sometimes you have to create additional basins to handle all that additional water.
Would you agree, Mark, that water should not be flowing out of the outflow of that basin after 1.5 inches of rain? And
I'm not going to give an opinion on it.
yeah,
No, I'm not going to give an opinion.
We got the stormwater reports, and so we're going to look at those a little bit more. But you know, and my main concern with the functionality of it is the outflow heads towards the stream and definitely goes to a wetland.
Okay.
You
So
know,
right now, again, we're in the construction phase. They need to handle that runoff because they don't have to have, unless there is a sequencing of the work in the notice or the order, the primary concern during construction is to make sure that water doesn't cause a problem. You know, the sediment that comes off the site has a chance to settle out before it goes anywhere. And if the bottom's plugged up and the basin's only sized for the degraded area, then clearly it can't be big enough.
Mark, that we had like 2 inches of rain and it didn't even get close to the outflow. So the thing's
Okay.
working correctly.
Okay, well, but if it's an infiltration basin, it's designed to infiltrate. So is it infiltrating the required volume of water? But even no matter what you say, it doesn't matter because we're still in the construction phase.
and that's where, Tom, there was 1.43 inches of water yesterday. That was off the National Weather Service website. And let me try and go to the share screen thing right now.
The picture you shared showed that it was still at least a couple, 3 feet below the spillway.
When you were saying spillway, are you referring to there's the picture right there that's flowing out at a pretty good rate from that outflow, and it was not raining at the time, and this was pretty much an hour to 2 hours after it was raining. It was just slightly drizzling, and the water's still coming out there.
That's the inflow. Talking about the outflow.
That's the outflow of the basin right there.
The outflow to the wetland.
Yes.
No, that's coming in
that's
from the neighborhood.
That's the one by Alice Woodmere's in back of her property.
That's in the street right there. That's in the basin. Give me a minute and I will show you the inflow. It's in one of these pictures. That's the outflow right there. And you can still see that there's a pretty large amount of clay silt going in there. And the other thing that you can see is the vegetation in the basin has pretty much died while the grass along the side is fine. There's the inflow where you can see a fairly substantial amount of clay flowing in, and it's coming in at a pretty good rate right there. And obviously it's in the conditions that the sediment is not supposed to be going in there. And this has been occurring for well over a year. And so that And with the fact that it was flowing out, makes me concerned about the future functioning of this basin. And so I guess I'm just bringing it up tonight because we need to look at it and be looking at the stormwater and working with the DPW to see what the best course of action moving forward on this is. So it's just kind of bringing everybody up to snuff on the emails that came out prior to the meeting.
Okay, if I can interject. So there's actually three important, when you run stormwater calculations, you first have existing conditions, pre-construction, and then the engineers run post-construction, where you have the square footages and runoff numbers for the building, the pavement, the grass, the trees. So these basins are sized for post-construction conditions. They are not sized for during construction when you have the most exposed soils. So this basin cannot function as a sediment basin, as a construction basin, because it's not sized for it. It's not designed for it.
I understand what you're saying, but if you go out there and look at it, and hopefully we'll get you out there on a site visit soon, the majority of the water that's going in here is coming from the stormwater system. It's not running down from other areas. It just, the topography doesn't allow for a lot of that. I'm gonna say it's 95% coming from the stormwater system in the street.
Craig,
Right,
we
and the
also have
street's getting more runoff because you don't have the houses and the grass that you would have for a subdivision.
Correct.
So that's why the stormwater system's getting more water.
Okay.
I'm sorry for interrupting someone.
That's okay. I was just going to note that Tom Christensen's in the audience. Craig, if you'd like any input from him.
If he would like to speak, sure.
Would you like me to get rid of the share screen?
Sure.
Hi, everybody.
Go ahead. Hey, Tom.
Hey, Tom.
How we doing?
Good.
No, I just wanted to just make a couple comments. I mean, I've been in contact with Al and Bradway during construction, and Philippe from R. Levesque. I mean, the design of this basin was to allow water out of that outlet structure. I don't think there's any more coming out of that outlet structure than is allowed by the design. It mimics what it's either equal to or less than the amount of water that would have came down that site if there was no development here. So the outlet structure itself is supposed to allow water from that basin to discharge at a rate equal or less than what would have been if there was no street there. Then the rest of it infiltrates in the site. We were out there this morning. There was no more water discharging from the outlet structure. And now I'm guessing when we go there tomorrow morning, that water will have infiltrated like it did last storm. I think the design time for infiltration was 31 hours and change, which is less than the 72 hours allowed by the stormwater handbook. So obviously, like I said, we'll go out and check it again tomorrow just to make sure. But and like I've communicated to you before, we're going to keep looking at this thing, and there's no way if there's a sediment buildup or anything of that sort that is stopping this from working correctly, that we're going to accept the street or anything in it. That's sort of our purview. We won't accept the street if it's not working the way that it was designed.
So then what you're saying is then if we get 1.5 inches of rain in 14 or 16 hours, water is going to come out of that.
like I said, I didn't design it. You know, if you want that information, I think you can ask Al to have his engineer explain that to you.
Okay, yeah, well, that's where we got copies of the stormwater reports, and I
Okay.
guess we'll be looking at it because,
It appears to me that it's working the way that it was designed.
okay,
Sorry to the chair.
please.
I was just reviewing the 2018 report from our Levesque, and there's no plan for pre-construction sediment basin. It's only this bioretention basin. So if we review that report, we can see the plan did not have a pre-construction basin. So there's no wonder, as Mark was saying, that there's sediment going in.
Oh, you mean a construction period?
Right.
Because pre-construction means a bare site, the
Sorry.
original site.
I'm
So
using the
construction
wrong
period.
term. Yeah. It's only, the only thing in the plan is the bioretention basin.
Correct. They get.
So they're not allowing for anything to deal with the sedimentation, which is running off into the properties nearby.
Well, other than the what Mark had called the post-construction design, which was the deep sump catch basins, which are designed to the bottom of the basin is 4 feet lower than the invert, so the solids can settle out before the water is discharged, and then the sediment forebay. But during construction, that may not be sized correctly, possibly.
And that's where my concern all along with this has been on the drawing C6 for the basin, infiltration basin notes, number 4, do not discharge sediment-laden waters from construction activities, runoff, water from excavations, etc., to the infiltration basins during any stage of the construction.
Yeah, I mean, so what would you like me to say to that?
I'm not sure. Because obviously we are. And
no, of course. And this is sort of...
It's been happening for well over a year.
Right.
And that's how, I don't know how, with all the sediment that continues to go in there that we saw in the pictures, that basin can function properly. So I guess we'll just have to look at it closer moving forward, because how do we fix this if it's a problem? You know, how do you completely stop water from that basin and redo it if we have to?
Well, if we have to, if the contractor has to, then they will.
Okay.
I mean, like I said, the substandard work, it will not be approved by the town and accepted. That's how it's going to be. During construction, things get a little messy, and yes, sediment gets tossed around, and even more so when it's fine particulates of redstone. That's really the problem, is the optics of the water, is the color. There's no way to tell how much sediment is going in there. It just looks bad because it's red.
Okay.
And like I said, when I go there tomorrow morning, just like the last time, the water will have infiltrated. I'm sure of that.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right. So anyway, we'll just continue to look into that situation there a little bit farther. Did anybody else have anything for project monitoring before we have Mark speak? I didn't. I think we're all set. All right, Mark, if you want to talk about limit of work line and resource area boundaries.
Well, all I can say is kind of what the regulations and the order of conditions says. As you know from looking at many years worth of plans, a lot of times they'll have a benchmark somewhere on the site that everything is based upon. whether it's contours, property lines, whatever, and elevations. So the regulations, I forget what general condition requires that the wetland flagging, if work is occurring near wetlands, then the wetland flagging must be in place for the life of the order, basically until a certificate of compliance is issued. That way everybody knows, hopefully, where the resource area actually is. So then we get to the limit of work line, and what some commissions do is, in their order of conditions, they require that before they do a pre-construction on-site, that the limit of work line, the erosion controls are clearly in the right place, and where they're supposed to be prior to the start of construction. I did a site visit once at a site in the Berkshires. There was actually a violation because the applicant's engineer, or I should say the guy in the backhoe, thought he was putting the silt fence in the right place, and he put it right through wetlands, and nobody ever caught it until they put the subdivision loop in. Nobody checked. Nobody from the commission, nobody from the applicant. So it's extremely important to make sure that limit of work line, the erosion control line, is in the right place and it's properly constructed. I mean, I've gone out to sites that commissions supposedly have taken a look at, where the contractor puts silt fence down and it's flapping in the breeze. It's not even trenched. So, I mean, if something's going to go wrong, Murphy's Law. I'm a firm believer in that law, because I've seen it happen all too often when people assume something's being done right. So I always recommend site visits. I always recommend photos, and it sounds like, Craig, you've taken a lot of photos. You always want to do that to make sure things are the way you expect. It's your order, and you want to make sure things are done right as well as much as I do. And that doesn't always happen. So make sure MACC on their website has a great bunch of checklists. And one of them is pre-construction on-site. One of them is site visit checklists during construction, so you don't forget things. Grab some of those lists, make your own up, so you have it with you when you go out, when you do a site visit. Anytime you do a site visit, do a checklist and give it to Bethany. She can keep it in the files. And now you have a paper trail of the issues you had, because you have a checklist and you have it in writing. Were silt fences in the right place? Are they still being maintained? Are the flags up? Is the file number sign up? Things like that. Whatever your order, the conditions you're worried about, put it on a checklist and have it with you when you go out.
If I may, one of the issues we have here now, which is where we need to try and schedule you out there on the site visit, just because we wanted to have additional confirmation of the distance from a tree that was cut down to the resource area boundary, and we approved a 25-foot limit of work line in this project. One of the errors that we made was the fact that we didn't specify that the limit of work markers were closer together. And in a few areas, they're too far apart. And in this area, where the tree is, I don't know, it'd be hard to see it, but I could show it kind of with a line, but there actually is a jog in the resource area between the two permanent limit of work markers. And the applicant in this case is saying, no, the limit of work is the straight line between the two of them. It doesn't necessarily have to be the 25 feet away in the middle.
Well, if you stated 25 feet, even if there's a jog, so what, right?
Well, that's where, if we stay with a straight line, let's say somewhere in the middle, it's only 22 feet away.
Okay, I'd have to read your order to see what it says. Does the plan show what the permanent markers are supposed to be, or how the limit of work or the 25 foot is supposed to be demarcated?
Essentially, we approved the 25-foot limit of work line. However, we also did approve permanent limit of work markers that I would say span too far, because there is not a permanent limit of work marker at the jog in the resource area.
Okay, so now you've learned a lesson, so next time, hopefully it won't happen again. So I know some commissions require the limit of work line to be put up, or the permanent limit of work line to be put up prior to the start of anything major. That way, I mean, the problem is the guy in the backhoe doesn't always see it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and things happen. It's half the time it's accidental. You know, they just don't realize it. So I actually recommend the use of orange snow fencing or something, just so the guy in the backhoe can easily see that versus a stone or a piece of rebar or PVC pipe or something like that. So I you know, one thing I can't do is interpret your order for you. So if you said 25-foot limit of work, you know, that's what I go by, is you're saying 25 feet. It doesn't constitute a straight line. The 25 feet is 25 feet. If he's 22 feet, he's too close.
And that is essentially what we wanted you on the site visit to look at us with regarding that.
Okay.
Because that's precisely what the commission is saying. That's not,
I mean, all I'm going to do is take a tape measure and look at the wetland flag. Hopefully there's a wetland flag there. Run 25 feet out and see if he's done anything closer than that. If he's done anything closer than that, then he's in violation of your 25-foot no disturb. I'm going to do the same thing you're doing.
yeah. What we did, because it's down a fairly steep embankment.
Oh, I'm not going down.
Well, what we did was I went down there and I use a ski pole for a walking stick. And so I was standing down there at my interpretation of the edge of the resource area with the tape measure attached to that, and then over to the people that were farther away. And that's how we came up with our measurement, that it was inside the 25 feet.
So you can also have them get a surveyor or their own people out there and require them to flag the 25. I mean, if you've got a violation, it's a violation. Lump it in with the rest of the stuff. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm just saying, actually, Mr. Joyce would be better off if he still owns the property, getting that 25-foot done himself instead of an enforcement order to get everything clear. And then you can say, yep, looks good to us, and then you can address it. I mean, I don't need to go to East Long Meadow just to be able to do something like that.
Okay. Jeff, you had your hand up? You're on mute.
I just want to clarify with Mark. Basically, what we were stating was that the 25 limit of work line followed the contour of the wetland boundary. So wherever that wetland is, it was a 25-foot away. And
right, it's measured flat. It's not measured up like that.
Right. And basically, the argument Mr. Joyce was taking is, well, I have a limit of work monument here and I have one over there, but it's a straight line between these. And we're saying, no, it follows the contour of the wetland.
I mean, that makes no sense. If there's a wetland flag in the middle, right? I mean, is there a wetland flag in the middle where there's not?
Yes.
There is?
There was.
I thought it was attached to a tree.
Yes, it was.
That wasn't the real limit, though. I thought they put it there because...
That, from my understanding, from what Mr. Joyce told us at the time, that flagging on that tree was done by the original wetland delineation. And that's what we measured from.
Right.
Okay, sometimes they'll put things on a tree
Right.
because it's the closest thing instead of putting it on a stake. So is that tree the actual wetland line?
No, it's not.
Right.
There's an offset, Tom?
Yeah, because the bank is so steep that the wetland line is 4 or 5 feet back.
Okay, so you got to go with the actual wetland line. You know, and what easily could be done is get a stake, move that wetland flag to the actual plan boundary, assuming that the plan boundary, the paper plan, accurately reflects what you found in the field. But the wetlands consultant found for the wetland in the field. So you approved, I mean, the plan should have been surveyed. I mean, Rob always does that, you know, Levesque. And so again, the flagging itself could be offset. So you want the actual point that you guys approved on the plan. And if their wetland guy needs to go and move it 4 feet, whatever it is, then you're going to have the right distance.
So when we went on the site visit, and I'll address this to Tom, how would we know it was 3 feet back? I mean, we're going with the marker to measure from the marker.
This is about as simple as it gets. It's the water's edge is virtually the line, but there's probably 6 inches of mud. So I went off the edge of the mud, and it's very definitive because it goes straight upland from there, you know, covered bank with pine needles. It's very definitive. Mark and I could go out there, Craig, and we'd all be within 6 inches of each other. So when I took a straight pole from that point, put it up, and then I measured linearly from that point, and those wattles were 26 feet by my measurement from the actual wetland line. They were like spot on where they should be per the surveyor.
Can I just quick, I think my concern here is that we don't have an actual flag, no matter who guesses where the edge of the wetland is. We need to actually have a measured flag where it actually is so that we can measure, because I feel like if we're all guessing where it is, then we're not going to be able to.
If I may, when I went down there and climbed down the bank and had the ski pole up in the air, and we had the tape measure out pretty flat, I was close to, it wasn't exactly in the straight area from the flag. I would say the flag was 2 or 3 feet away, running along the edge of the resource area. And so I was using my determination from my experience where the edge of the resource area was. And I believe I was being conservative in where I held that. I was a little bit down from the high water mark there. The water was still a couple feet away because we are in the drought type conditions right now. But I believe I was very conservative with that measurement, and we were 25 feet away, or 21 feet away was the number that we came up with. You know, and I'm sorry that you weren't there for the site visit with the rest of the commission, but you did this measurement of the distance by yourself, Tom?
Instead of arguing, why not just get Levesque out there, get that point down, and then measure it off, see what you get.
That's what I
mean, you're not going to solve it in this
Right.
meeting, that's for sure.
All right. So moving forward, I guess that I don't know about getting Levesque out there and who's paying for that, and that sort of thing. Say we'll do another site visit, and we will get one scheduled in the very near future. We can do it right now if you want, for when we're going to go there, and you know, hopefully you will be there this time, Tom, because just because why we're discussing this again still.
Yeah, and make sure you have the plans with you.
We did.
Okay.
Yep.
But if I may, isn't that part of the original filing with the NOI, the orders of conditions, didn't it state that the wetlands flagging had to be maintained for the duration of the project?
Yes, it does.
And how many times have we been out there and you can't even see the flagging? And, you know, and in a couple of the enforcement orders that were issued, it was stated that the wetland flag delineation had to be put on stakes, not tied to twigs and trees that fell down or blew over or broke off with the windstorms, so that the area could be readily seen, and that the flagging should not be more than 25 feet apart, so that instead of 50 or 100 feet where you can't even see them from one from the other.
That's correct. We did state that on site visits earlier, that the flags were too far apart. But
Did the order require the distance between flagging?
On
No.
the enforcement order did.
No, in the order of conditions or the notice of intent. I mean, usually the notice of intent, they have flags at the corners or wherever it changes, and they draw a straight line. So, if you didn't require a flagging, a wetland boundary marker every 25 feet, then it's subject to interpretation what exactly they had to do.
Okay.
All right. So moving forward, do we want to do another site visit in the near future?
Sure.
It's supposed to be raining tomorrow and, or,
No, tomorrow's gonna be nice, Craig.
yeah, tomorrow's gonna be nice. Friday and Saturday are gonna be nice. Do we want to go there tomorrow at 5:30?
Well,
Hey, Craig,
Yes,
Craig?
sir. Yep.
All right. You're saying, tomorrow we're gonna meet at 5:30?
If that works for the commission. Can you be there, Tom?
You want me to bring my boat? On a 20-foot pole, steel rod pole, and I'll be out in the boat, and we'll measure from every distance. How's that sound?
Bring your transit, Tony.
as a
Okay.
request, before we go on the site visit, could we ask Bethany, I don't know if she's on, I don't see her name, to check the order of conditions and see whether we required that 25-foot limit?
We
That's
did not.
important to know before we go back. I mean, otherwise
did
we're
not.
looking at the same thing again, right?
Yep. We did not require it, but Mr. Stinson stated that 25 feet is 25 feet.
But he stated it had, if it,
We didn't state it regarding flagging, but the order of conditions state that the limit of work line is 20 feet.
I know, but what you're measuring it from is,
Mhm.
what are you measuring the limit of work line from?
The edge of the resource area,
And how is that marked?
that would be the quarry.
Yeah, but isn't that where the flags are supposed to be? Marking the,
Correct, but
edge?
we can, being that, you know, that we're experienced commissioners, we're supposed to know how to go out and determine what the edge of the resource area is. This one is much easier to determine because it's a body of water, and the bank would be the edge of the bank would be the resource area, as opposed to determining the edge of a wetland, you know, that would require boring and checking for hydric soils and plants and that sort of thing. This is a much easier one to determine the edge of the resource area.
I wouldn't say so, because of the steep banks and the drought. We have a mud line, if we're gonna use the mud line, but you heard Tom say he pulled his tape measure up. Well, that does, and Mark said it has to be flat.
And
We use the ski pole to hold
Let me
it up.
clarify something, Francis.
Yes,
The top of bank, the legal top of bank does not change. Because when you approved the order, you approved probably, the bank is going to be the same contour all the way around, right?
Mm-mm.
So, yeah, it will be. You know, even though there's different dimensions to the quarry, the water, it's still going to be the same level, So it's still going to be the same contour, whatever the contour is. So that boundary is fixed for the life of the order of conditions. It's not going to change. Where the water level is going to change.
Right.
But the legal top of bank is fixed. It's locked in.
But we're talking about measuring, I heard Tom say he measured from the water level.
Right, which may or may not be the legal, that's a good point, which may or may not be the legal top of bank that you approved.
Okay, so how do we know what the top of bank is? Or
Well, it'll be on the plans that you guys approved.
Right.
It'll probably be based on a contour. So hopefully there's some benchmark out there that they used for elevation data.
My point is that the only way you can prove that definitively is with a surveyor, because it is so
Yes.
on the spot. Like, you don't know where the actual line was, like Mark was saying.
That's what I'm saying.
Francis.
Me too.
2 years ago, when this was set in stone, you know, the water has since, you know, evaporated, risen, on, and we don't know where the actual line exists. But I'm saying that it's those wattles are so right on 26 feet from the existing line today, which is not the accurate line, that you're talking about inches. So, I mean, I suppose you could definitively say, if you went out there with a surveyor, went on the benchmark. My point is the measurements you guys came up with at 21 feet is inaccurate, in my opinion.
I mean, this seems really not that big an issue compared to everything else you have going on out there. I mean, you might want to just live with it, make sure it doesn't change, and you have other issues there you need to deal with that are pretty significant, right?
Okay.
But it's your call, it's your order, you know.
Thoughts from the commission?
I feel like my thinking about this is that there's two. I don't have the experience that you guys have. So being someone that wouldn't know, I would actually like to have the actual. I mean, there's different opinions among us. And the only way that it's going to be solidly solved is to have someone go out and actually put the actual mark there. But if the embankment, the top of bank is visible and we can tell, that's also another thing. But I also do agree that I with Mark a little bit about how much effort and time we should be pouring into this.
Tony?
Yeah.
What do you
What
do you think? Forward. How do you want to proceed with this?
Oh, Jeff, I want to ask Jeff a question. Are you there, Jeff?
I'm here.
Okay. Okay. How long ago was it when we went out there after Levesque put the permanent markers up?
Well, he had apparently just done them. They look fairly fresh.
Okay. How accurate? All right, we measured on lots 19 and 20 from the edge up. How accurate was it? Were they right on? Were they right on 25 feet?
Yeah, the ones that we measured, yes.
Okay. Which is the ones we are, is there any in doubt? Are we in doubt of any of those permanent markers or what?
No, we're not in doubt on the permanent markers. What
What's in between?
No, the situation is that the original wetlands delineation,
Yep.
because it was done over 2 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And some of those flaggings were just put on branches or trees or whatever that have since blown down, broken off, been knocked over by other trees.
Yeah.
So there are no clear flaggings left, and
Exactly.
and Al has stated that he's gone around and he's tried to put up his own flagging in approximation of where the original ones were. Sometimes he tied them right next to it.
Okay.
But again, it's very hard to get an accurate delineation at this point, because a lot of
Oh,
those,
yeah, there's,
a lot of those flaggings haven't been maintained.
right. Exactly. So is that the areas you want to cover tomorrow, or you want to do that whole area?
I guess my question to you, Tony, is what's your thoughts? Do you want to proceed with doing anything on this, or just let it go because we have enough other things on our plate?
It's up to you. How do you feel? How do you and Jeff and Tom feel about this?
I'm asking you.
I mean, well, the thing is, I mean, ever since this project started, we've bent over backwards for Al. And we've been out there numerous times. I mean, is it going to matter at this point or what?
What do you think? Well, how would you like to proceed?
I would, I'll go with the flow. I mean, what the hell? I mean, I've been out there, I don't know, 30 times already. And each time we go out there, there seems to be a change. You know?
And I guess I was just asking your opinion, not that you'll go with the
Well,
flow. What do you think?
yeah.
If you're not willing to give one, that's fine.
No, I mean, I agree wholeheartedly. There's areas where those markers are you know.
We're talking about this one area, Tony.
We're just talking about lot 15, where those 3 trees were cut.
Right, exactly. Let's just go back out there.
So you would like to pursue it further?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. Francis?
I wasn't here in the beginning, but lesson learned. In the beginning, pre-construction, we have to make sure those markers are in place. We're not going to do this again, right? As long as I'm on the commission, we're not going to just not check it carefully pre-construction. And the orders of conditions have to be much more detailed. If we want 25 feet between markers, we're going to have to say that.
I agree.
Yeah, so here we are. We've got tons of things going on at the site. And going out there to remeasure when we're not sure where to measure from, again, to me, I'm not going to go, but I agree with Aaron. What seems to me that should be done is we should ask that Levesque come back and reestablish markers in that area where there's a jog. In other words, between one permanent marker and the other permanent marker, it's so far away that if you measure between markers, you got a straight line, and that doesn't show the accurate delineation, okay? Because it's not a straight line. In reality, it's not a straight line. So the only way is to ask Al, maybe in the letter that we're going to send him, to have that particular area marked again by Levesque. I mean, we could ask that, but I don't want to go out there again for that, because I was with you. We already know what we did, and we know what Tom did, and there's a difference. And no sense in talking about it, you know?
Okay.
We either get it officially done or we let it go. I mean, at this point, because I feel it was our mistake of not requiring it in the beginning.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Thank you. Jeff?
Well, at this point, to fight over one tree over 4 feet, it seems like kind of pointless compared to all the other stuff that's going on out there.
I would agree. And to go back to what you said, Francis, it is in the order of conditions, and I would say at this point, we need to send a letter out that the flagging needs to be redone, because if you were where I was yesterday at the outflow from the basin, there's virtually no flags over there. They're non-existent. And I would say that whole area along that western side of the project, the flagging is minimal. So I guess we can let this tree go, you know, and not worry about it, and we'll just send a letter saying that, you know, the resource area flagging needs to be redone. Everybody good with that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Next.
We spend a lot of time at this place.
No kidding. Mark, did you have anything else you want to add? Because I think we're pretty close to wrapping things up here. Other than it was nice seeing you again.
I'm going to send you guys the sediment, the erosion and sedimentation control handbook, where you can look up the where it discusses sediment traps, sediment basins. And you can do your own homework on that.
Yeah.
And I'll send you the language from, or Bethany can do that. I think it's general condition 17 maybe, where it states that the boundary flags are supposed to be up. That's easy enough. But I'll send that guide, the erosion and sedimentation control guidance document to you. I'll do that after I log off.
Okay. Thanks, Mark.
Okay.
Thanks,
you.
Mark.
All right. Good seeing you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good seeing you, Mark.
All right.
Thank you, Mark.
All righty. And at this
So,
point,
hey, Craig, can I ask you a question?
sure, Tony.
Greg?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, are we gonna meet, are we still meeting tomorrow night over here at 5:30?
No.
No, okay. So we'll just forget it.
That's what we just said.
Okay.
All right. The next item on the agenda is an executive session matter for an open meeting law complaint. So we will be moving into executive session to return to the meeting only to adjourn.
I move we adjourn so we can have an executive session meeting.
Um,
Do you want to temporarily adjourn, Craig?
No, we keep the meeting open. We adjourn after the executive session. We return from executive only to adjourn.
We
All right,
have
so
to
I
go.
make a motion, we go to executive session.
So moved.
Motion made by Tom, seconded by Tony. All those in favor, Jeffrey,
Aye.
Francis,
Yes.
Tom,
Aye.
Aaron,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
and I am a yes also.